Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Survivor 48, Week 9.
This episode's titled, Welcome to the Party. That was spoken by Shauhin. This is the second week in a row that we've actually heard the title in the Next Time on Survivor.
Yep.
Previously on Survivor, David adds Mary, and now there's a strong 6. Eva found a scroll describing an opportunity to gain an advantage. Chrissy targets Shauhin. David decides he wants Kamilla out. Kyle fights for her. Chrissy warns of a strong steamroll in progress while she's at Tribal Council, and Chrissy is out.
All right.
Back at camp on night 15 after Tribal Council, Joe's going to restart that fire because it appears to have gone completely out.
Yep. Not even a spark.
Mitch checks in with Shauhin, wants to know if he's okay. Shauhin says, "Why did Chrissy target me? Don't get it." We see Eva reassuring Kamilla, and David comes up to Kamilla and says that he had floated her name.
And Kamilla says, David is dead to me. Kiss of death.
Yeah. Mary's smart. She's angling to get herself deeper and deeper into that strong 6. So she's reinforcing the idea of the meat shield meme when it gets brought up. Commiserating with David. And the trials and tribulations of the strong alliance.
He's just got to figure out why Kyle is protecting Kamilla lately.
He has been scaring David. David's instincts continue to be spot on.
Yeah. It's like, you should be a little nervous, David.
Got to figure that out, he tells us.
I think he has now. Okay. Day 16.
Yes, 2-day cycle, 16 and 17 for this episode. Got
They're
another
up at,
beautiful sunrise.
Yes, yes. And it's the 6 again at the beach.
Mm-hmm. Shauhin's thinking about painting the flag.
Yeah, that bothered him before that they didn't give him. Jeff didn't give them time to paint the flag.
Mm-hmm. Eva's thinking all game, all the time. She said, we've got them now. We can pick them off one by one.
And she's just very happy that Chrissy left because, as long as it wasn't one of her people, she didn't care.
Better vibe, she tells us in camp, with Chrissy gone.
And who's next? Eva says, Mitch could win a challenge.
David said at this point that he was going to sit things out.
Yeah, for 2 seconds before he said, Mary wants Kamilla.
Right. When Eva didn't say the right name, he punted to Mary to try to rectify it and get them back on target. And Kyle reassures them that he's good with everything. He's fine with whatever their plan is.
But you notice he jumps up as soon as Shauhin walked off somewhere. Kyle got up and went after him.
Yeah, they went to go get water.
Oh, is that what they did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Kyle was right, though. He said, I need to make this personal for Shauhin.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did he.
Yeah,
He was
Shauhin
right on
was
board.
receptive. He was ready to hear that.
So, yeah. That Mary and David are after both of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they want to go after Kamilla is because of you, because you wanted her.
Yeah, they said that you and Kamilla were working together.
Yep. And so Shauhin tells him, I'm on board. And I haven't always believed everything Shauhin said, but I really felt like he meant it 100%. I'm on board. Let's do it.
He continues in this trend, though, of, at least from what we've been shown, where he's he's out of step with things, or he's misread things to a large degree.
Well, he was so observant, though, before.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing really well at sussing out things.
Yep. Well, he reassures Kyle, Kamilla stays, bro.
Yeah, which is But the beauty of it all is Shauhin has no idea that Kyle wants Kamilla there more than Shauhin does, I think. So.
Yeah, and they decide that they're going to target Mary and take Mary away from David.
And I was like, no.
You're so close. So close.
So,
Meanwhile, perceptive David, he's on top of it. He notices Shauhin and Kyle they haven't come back yet. They missed the actual rise of the sun across the horizon.
Man, he points it out to everyone.
Mm-hmm. And then we see David, Mary, and Eva getting together to talk and targeting Kyle and Shauhin more. And even that, it doesn't even sit well with Eva. And I think we find over the course of this episode that David and Mary have a good relationship with Eva. Eva trusts them, they trust her. That's why we keep seeing them get together to discuss things.
Yeah, but even she was not liking the paranoia.
Right, because she doesn't want anyone to rock the boat.
Yep.
No swaps, don't mix things up.
Which is totally unrealistic.
Yeah, bless her heart.
And Kyle wanted to talk to David, Joe, and Eva about the last vote, with Chrissy. And that didn't go over as well as I'm sure he expected. I thought that was over, blah, blah, blah,
As
blah.
good as David's instincts are, he doesn't seem to strike the right balance in how he approaches and comes at his alliance members.
Yes. How he deals with it. He sees it, and his intuition even is very good, but he just doesn't handle it that well.
Right. He switches immediately back into the mode from the previous day, telling Kyle, clearly, that should have been easy.
Well, Kyle really was trying to explain, well, I'm highly emotional, and I was just trying to cover all the bases. I really wasn't trying to be difficult, and then David pops up, and Kyle's like, wow, he's really being bullish.
Mm-hmm. Didn't call him a bully, but called him bullish.
Yeah.
Wait, you think he's just trying to soften that?
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't work.
In any case, Kyle tells us he's had lots of experience dealing with people like David, but he can't really make a connection here. He's convinced at this point he's not going to be able to reason with David at all.
Yeah. I don't know. You think David would have been better to let it go? I mean, he was right. He was picking up on something. He just went the wrong way with it. And he didn't go the wrong way, I guess, because Shauhin did want to work with Kamilla. But David, I think that's really all he was picking up on until Kyle started to not want her to go. And then he started to suspect them a little bit, too. But I think they kind of waylaid that from what they showed us anyway, a little. And that it was more, now the three of them are against us. They're all three working together. So he kept expanding on that.
I liked how Joe and Eva just sat there looking on as Kyle and David went back and forth again, sort of rehashing the previous day's argument.
Yeah, I don't know if, I don't think Joe really wanted to get involved. I don't think he really wants to make the decisions.
Definitely doesn't.
He keeps turning things over to Eva. Well, what do you want to do?
Right.
I'll do whatever you want to do. And he did that with okay, well, if you're that adamant, okay, we'll do what you want. Mm-hmm. Instead of being the one to make the decision. So, that could be good for him, and it could end up being bad for him. So,
yeah, when you get to the end and you've been Mr. Defer, it could come off really bad.
Yeah.
There was no action.
If he made it to the to the jury. To the final three.
Okay, night 16. It is time for Eva to begin sneaking.
She's got to wait till everybody's asleep.
Mitch is not going to catch on. That was an open mouth snore. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Mitch may have some apnea.
Yep. You would know.
Mm-hmm. What did they say? I stopped breathing 51 times an hour?
I thought it was 52, I think, at the highest.
It was 52? Yeah.
Yeah. In the 60 minutes, you didn't breathe 52 at the first.
No, that's not right.
It stopped. I don't mean you didn't breathe, but it stopped.
Uh-huh. You goofball.
Okay, well, I've had a day.
Shauhin is sleeping kind of in the hammock, But he's keeping an eye peeled, I guess.
Yep.
And we see Eva has decided it is indeed time, and she gets up and moves through the camp. Now, we went back and made sure to look slowly at the sleeping arrangements, and we did not uncover anything terribly interesting. There were no pairings.
Not at all.
Yeah, the people that are working closely together weren't necessarily even sleeping near each other.
David was sleeping closer to Eva than he was
Joe.
to
than Mary. Yeah.
Mary, yeah.
Yeah.
Stop talking for me.
Yep. Well, Shauhin's onto her. He spots her sneaking off.
Well, what interested me most is when they show the silhouette of Shauhin's behind her, and not that far behind her.
Trailing her.
She doesn't even look around.
Well, no, she's decided everyone is asleep. Therefore, there's no point in checking.
But you'd think he would have made some noise unless he was.
I don't know. He might be an expert sneaker.
He might be.
Yeah.
And but why do you think he went to tell Joe? Why did he wake Joe up and whisper?
Well, he knows their relationship, and it's an opportunity for it. It is. I mean, secrets like that are currency. So sharing it with Joe, even though he did catch Joe a little off guard, because according to Joe, he was actually asleep. And then this big bearded man is peering into his face upside down.
And putting his face up against his.
And then whispering into his ear. Yeah.
It's like, what is happening?
Joe didn't care. He's like, Eva? Okay, well, I trust Eva. I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah.
Eva's a team player,
But
he said.
You stay awake and watch for her.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I wasn't sure what he was after there. If he thought maybe Joe would know.
Well, he's his alliance partner. And
well, yeah, and
he's given Joe the opportunity to decide if they were going to act on it.
So, yeah, I really thought they were going to follow her or something, but
Joe's like,
she
no.
wasn't a bit
I
interested.
really want to sleep. Thank you.
And seriously, I did not. I was shocked the next morning when she just told him. After all
Well,
of that.
let's talk about what she found first before we do that. So
I can do that.
She spots the torches once she gets a little ways away from camp and follows them in, and discovers that she has acquired an extra vote. And I don't know about you, but I like these where they give them a chance to risk it.
Oh yeah,
for
'cause
something
it can
better.
really
And
hurt.
then so this ends up being like a 3-stage thing. First, she has secured the extra vote, and then she's presented with the second opportunity, which is, okay, you can risk it to get a safety without power. It's 50-50, and she decides to go for it. Do you think, what would you have done?
Safety without power is
Big.
way more than an extra vote. I think.
Although my first thought was, oh no, an extra vote. That could really upset the apple cart. That could take away an advantage if an underdog 5 alliance were to rise up in the course of this episode.
That's why it would also be nice. So I didn't think she could go wrong either way, but I thought it was gutsy that she went for it.
Yep. So she takes a 50-50 and she wins. She gets the safety without power, and now she's presented with
another one
opportunity. She can risk it with a 1 in 3 chance for a full individual immunity idol.
Now, the safety without power only can be used to final 7, but the idol could be used to final 5.
Right.
So that would be an extra boost.
I really thought she was going to go for it.
I was like, oh, you got lucky, girl. Maybe not push it further.
She knew the odds she was dealing with. She was running the numbers.
She did.
She seemed like she had a pretty solid process for doing her evaluation. And then
and I
she
thought it was impressive, and she did it logically and calmly, and, she didn't freak out or anything. So good job, Eva.
So she secures the safety without power and adds that to her war chest with the individual immunity idol. She's got the hidden immunity idol. And she tells us this is indeed a great feeling.
Well, and I thought she could totally play an idol for herself and send Joe back to camp. And they couldn't touch him.
Or vice versa.
If it got down to that, you know. And I thought, whoa.
Shauhin has stayed awake. He spots her. At least that's the way the edit makes it look. spots her when she returns, and hops into a second hammock that we were not aware of. We got confused for a second. Yep.
When we were looking where everybody was sleeping.
Yep.
That is unusual, though, that people aren't curled up for warmth, but they weren't. And so they almost had like little sections where they
It
laid
wasn't almost. They
logs.
clearly had
But,
bamboo.
yeah. Well, I don't know if
marking off
everyone
areas.
had it, but there was
Yeah.
a lot of them
Well,
that did.
Star was actually sleeping in the shelter.
Yeah.
And
well,
Mitch
there were
was just below
a
it.
couple of other people up there, too, but a lot of them were
I think what they showed us was
around the fire
from
on
different
the ground.
times,
Maybe, yeah.
too.
And then there were a couple of hammocks people could sleep in if
Yep.
they wanted. So, but anyway, that is unusual from what we've seen in the past, where they tend to really snuggle up for warmth.
Okay, it's the next morning. We're on day 17, and Eva's retelling the tale to Kyle, Joe, and Shauhin. And Shauhin really appreciates this. He tells us that solidified his trust in Eva. He knew that she had a chance to win, but this really improved his trust in her, that she shared what she obtained and how she obtained it, what was available, all that.
I think probably this is the first time in the game that he's completely trusted someone. Mm-hmm. But he really seemed to make an impression that she included him.
Right. David was not there at that point where she was sharing all that stuff.
Nor Mary.
But Mary does come walking up, and Eva immediately shifts gears, and they start talking about just double checking on who the vote was.
Is it still
Mitch? Yeah.
Still, oh, no, I thought it was Kamilla. Still
Or Kamilla, yeah.
Still Kamilla, yep. You just act like they were talking about that, so.
So you could tell there was a difference just because of that, for sure. Kyle tells us he can't lose Kamilla. She is a problem solver and a great strategic mind. And so he's going to go, seems like it was pretty quick after Eva laid this out. He was going to go and share this with her.
He totally did, too. Told her everything, even about shared Eva's. That would really hurt him if they found out. So he's trusting her a lot because she could completely burn him.
Mm-hmm. And he's still, concerned about the threat that David represents and how he could blow up his game.
Well, he should be, because he definitely could have. But, David came in not too far behind. They flipped to another picture, and he was sitting there with them, too, then. Mm-hmm. And they
As Kyle walked off, yeah.
Yeah. But he tells Eva and Joe that at this point that he thinks that Shauhin, Kyle, and Kamilla have an alliance.
Mm-hmm. Well, he even says that Mitch is plotting against him. That was a new twist, wasn't it? Yeah.
I don't know. I suspect they've heard it all before. Everyone's plotting against him, but that's why even Eva's talking. She seemed a little upset with the paranoia that he and Mary were
propagating. Yeah. Joe tells us that he trusts Kyle and Shauhin. David has been texting and calling Joe with every one of these episodes going, see?
Mm-hmm. I told you did.
Yeah. You trusted them over me.
Well, here's the clincher, David. You told Joe that he went back on his word.
Talking about not reading the room.
He really didn't forgive you for that.
No.
And Joe I believe had he not done that, he might still be there.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because Joe was like, no.
That was his last straw, wasn't it?
Nope.
Yeah.
Do not trust you anymore.
Joe clarifies or corrects him and says, look, the group decided that. I went with the group. That was us together. But David didn't let go. He kept pressing.
Well, you've got to see it from my point of view. Joe's like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Finally, after 2 or 3 back and forth on that, David said, well, I didn't mean to insult you. Which, okay, so he recognizes that he insulted him, but it was too late. Well, I think I'm right,
but
he says.
Yeah. But at this point, Joe's like, now I totally trust only Kyle, Shauhin, and Eva. He is no longer sure about David.
Right. He said he thought he had a read on David, but he does not know now.
And
so David has poisoned the well.
Yep. And that backfired big time.
What did you think about that moment with Star in the swimming lesson?
Oh, I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I thought it was anytime anyone goes on Survivor that does not know how to swim or didn't at least try to take some lessons before they left, I think it's nuts. So, I think it's nuts.
It's very risky.
Oh, she's going to go back and learn so that when she gets the next call from Jeff, it's like, okay, yeah.
I like Mitch was invested. He was trying to help her.
Yeah. I think Mitch is an awesome person.
Mitch and Joe were both encouraging her while she was practicing. That was cool.
Just hang in there, Mitch. You don't know what might turn around in this game. He seems to just be trying. And
I think the most we can say is he has not given up.
Nope, he hasn't, and still trying to
still had energy and
make friends.
Compassion. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think he's just a nice guy, period. So, but I like that she got out there and tried. You never know when it might come in handy.
Yeah, they didn't really have a down day, but they took advantage of this time before the challenge because David was out on the reef and Eva was swimming way out there, and Mitch and Joe are chilling on the beach, and Star's trying to practice some of the techniques that Mitch had told her for swimming.
And Joe was helping with that too there after a while.
He was encouraging.
He was up there encouraging as well. But I guess I really just thought this was all an act at first with Kyle.
Oh, when he comes up to Joe?
Well, not then so much. This is when I realized that. But, all I thought he was just covering up for his relationship with Kamilla, and he was. Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that until he had this conversation with Joe that he really did have some issues that it was bringing up.
I'm still a little confused, even though we went back and tried to make sure we understood what was going on. That conversation was, I don't know, it seemed disjointed, I guess would be a way to describe the feeling of watching them have it.
I don't think we saw all of it.
Certainly not. Yeah.
And so there's that. And I believe that somewhere along the way, Kyle got the message that Joe was a little skeptical about, well, why was he so adamant? Why was he acting that way? What's this all about? What's the underlying? And so Kyle gave him that explanation, and he showed Joe, I trust you. Mm-hmm. You show Joe you trust him, you win him over. Just like Eva. I trust you.
So Kyle's basically saying all the aggressiveness from the previous day was what had triggered him. And
the nervousness and the whole energy, even though it was really
somehow that ties into a period in Kyle's childhood, he tells us, where he was a wild child and he was partying.
Well, and that there was a lot of conflict going on, and the conflict out there was setting off all of these things that
this is the part that didn't really connect to me.
Well,
he tells us he got arrested for underage possession of alcohol and disorderly conduct because he's walking around in public with a bottle in his hand. First he says he was 2 weeks in jail, and then later we hear that it was 30 days. And anyway, Joe ends up telling him...
Those might have been different instances.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
For one thing and so long for the other. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And you don't see... I think he's right. I would have thought, oh, man, you just messed up your life. You're in law school and you're in jail. Forget about it. Mm-hmm. They're just going to write you off, kind of thing. And that didn't happen.
No, said he took one of his exams while he was in jail.
Yeah, wrote a paper and one of his
kept up with all his reading. Yeah.
And that was his ability to convince the judge, number one, to let him furlough and take the test and to get a professor to come to jail to get an oral report.
Right.
Seriously? How many were going to do that?
Yeah, what a great professor.
So that tells me that he can be very effective in convincing people that he's serious.
He said all that, but he didn't tell Joe that he was actually a lawyer or that he was studying the law.
No, he didn't give that part up. And I think that was wise. because that could have really come back to bite him. But the whole point was he confided in Joe.
Yeah, shared something personal like Mitch was talking about was part of his plan as a way to make a connection. And it really appears to work. Joe shares some of his background. His dad was in prison. And that somehow this conversation really helps him understand the stress that was caused by
the way
Mary
Kyle was
and David.
Acting.
Yeah.
Yes, why he was acting that way.
But then we get to the most important part of what Joe wanted to say, which was, David said I broke my word. That's where the conversation
Joe sharing back.
Yeah.
And
how he felt after all that. Yeah. And that's where he declares that David's demeanor has changed. Doesn't like working with him.
Yep. And that it had, and he's like, well, he's really been acting differently the last day or two. And, but he's got to go talk to Eva. Because once again, he put that, I'm like, no,
defers
Eva.
The decision. Yeah.
I was like, no, don't keep it together. Send David home.
Right.
But I don't know how they got around to that, but they did eventually. But not in this conversation.
They were speaking in circles for a little bit there.
Yeah, but he told her he would do what she wanted to do. But somehow somebody talked him around. And maybe it was David himself if she tried to talk to him. And it just went
because I thought Joe was just going to come out and say, I want to get rid of David, but he ends up saying, hey, Mary gives me pause. So you're thinking that he's targeting Mary. And Eva shares that while Mary and David have been extra paranoid, she still maintains a trust. And the three of them, like we're talking about, have a connection. And so Eva's still thinking she can trust that. She doesn't want to break everything apart because she knows if she gets spooked, it's going to come flying apart because she's the one in the middle.
But she did, right at the end there, start to examine her feelings somewhat. Well, am I feeling safe just because I have an idol? I am safe. Mm-hmm. Is that why, but maybe she started to put herself in Joe's position. Like, well, this is how he's feeling. I don't feel that way because I'm not in danger. I have an idol. I have this. Not in danger,
and I have this connection where I'm in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so she's got
truthfully,
options.
Her connection to David and Mary seemed way stronger than Joe.
Yes. Well, part of that, too, is because David just wants to compete with Joe. He can't, coexist.
True.
Okay, on to the immunity reward challenge.
It's like, my goodness, we finally got here.
It's a classic challenge we've seen before where there's a ball in a chute, kind of what Probst called it, the jaws of the chute. And you got to maintain this upward pressure, keep pushing up on that bottom jaw to keep the ball in place. If you step off the pedestal or the ball drops out of the chute, you're out of the challenge.
Oh my goodness, I'm afraid I would have tried to run everybody down to get the peach cobbler and chocolate covered strawberries.
That was quite the reward,
two of my
ham and cheese wraps,
things.
Juices, no mention of chocolate milk again. Somehow they're really missing the boat on that.
I noticed you had almost a quart yourself today. Speaking of chocolate milk.
Had to have some. I didn't pour it out. I poured it in me. But in honor of the vote out,
I know,
for sure.
You went and drank a bunch right after the episode ended.
Uh-huh. That's it.
Before we even recorded.
That's true. Which is a bad idea when you're going to be talking.
I know. I thought of that, but I'm like, okay, let him go.
Yeah.
It can't affect your voice.
Ceremony of it all. That's it.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to keep your palms up. You got to push up against that handle and keep the ball in place. And stars out.
How many seconds was that? Is she even trying?
No.
I don't think she is. I'm not a threat.
Now, is she Crystal Cox bad, or is she just not care bad?
I don't know. I
can't tell.
I'm puzzled.
Yeah.
But
Shauhin almost went out right after her.
He did. But he saved it. Mm-hmm. How many times did he save it?
It's like three or four, I think.
Yes. I was like, oh, wow.
And Mary's out.
Because most people can't stop it once it gets going.
Yep. Then Kamilla's out. And Mitch. I was hoping Mitch was going to do better.
Then Shauhin almost drops again.
Yeah, slips again.
Oh, and Eva.
Out.
That surprised me.
Yeah. I think it's the concentration and trying to get the
Yes.
pressure right
have
so you
to
don't
stay
blow your arms
focused.
out.
Yep. And then Shauhin was out.
Well, yeah, he got goofy in terms of how he was like doing a squat. He had moved his hands a different way. Maybe that was in desperation,
It's
but
just
he
so
went
uncomfortable trying to hold it that way.
unconventional, and he's out.
Yeah. And then Kyle ended up like slipping off the platform or something. And wow,
he's
that's
out.
all it took, even though
Now
the ball was still
showdown
intact.
between Joe and David, and
Joe almost dropped.
Yeah, Joe is struggling. He's like right where Shauhin was.
And I thought this was going on for so long, and Jeff says, all right, we're 17 minutes in.
Right.
I thought, really? That's all? But it must
Now,
have been so hot out there.
Yeah, well, they did that slow-mo shot of where you could see the sweat pouring out
dripping
in
off the
between
hands.
David's fingers.
And
yeah.
the nose and the forehead.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, how miserable.
David starts working on Joe. I was pretty sure that David had this wrapped up, and I
I
was
was
immediately
really
bummed
upset.
because we both had him as the one being voted out.
We're
I
like,
thought, look at this, he's going to wrap
no.
up another one.
It's like, Joe, come on, hold on.
Even starts working on Joe, telling him, "Hey, I'm going to pick you for the reward when I win, Joe. So you don't got to worry about that."
That would have just been like a little poke.
Mm-hmm.
That would have annoyed me. Oh, you're going to take me, aren't you?
And David slips. He steps off just out of the blue.
He wasn't focusing anymore. He was trying to
Got a
stick
karmic
it
shove,
to Joe.
you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe somehow ends up winning that when I was just convinced he had lost.
Yes.
That it was just a matter of time.
I think I screamed.
You did yell.
Yeah.
Probst tells us two stories. There's the smile on Joe's face and the utter despair on David's.
I just wanted to say, suck it up, David. Not that, I would be harsher.
How does David handle it when Probst talks to him? Well, he says, I should have won it.
I should have.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you probably could have.
By
if
all
you
rights,
hadn't been
that was mine.
taunting Joe. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I
Now,
was happy
did you
to see
figure
him
Joe was
lose
going to pick
something.
him for the reward?
I did think he would.
I did too.
And so I was surprised, and I'm pretty sure David was surprised too.
No, I was super surprised when he picked Mitch. Even though they had foreshadowed this a little bit, I guess, in a way.
Yes, because Mitch has not eaten at all.
This is going to be his first reward.
And see, Joe had not had any significant food, just a donut, until his last time. Mm-hmm. And so I think he was really feeling badly for Mitch because he had had nothing. So I do think that, as he told Jeff, no, this is just straight up human to human. It ain't about the game.
Right.
Because if he was playing the game, he would have taken David to keep him from freaking all out.
Well, he has
a
a second opportunity. Surely he'll choose David for his second choice.
Yeah. Nope.
Shauhin.
Okay, now that hurt.
I think it was meant to.
That hurt.
Don't you?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
That was like,
Out of the strong six.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get chosen.
And actually, I was surprised too that he didn't pick Eva.
Yes, that's
Until-
exactly who I thought was going to be after Mitch.
Well, I would have thought he'd have picked her first, but actually, but I think he knew she would understand if he didn't get her because she had just stuffed with the tacos so much.
Joe offered a little insight into his frame of mind, I think. He tells us in his confessional as they're headed out, I'm so proud of myself. I'm a proud dad. I hope I want my kids to see me win. And
I still got it.
I got one over on those young punks.
Yep, he wanted to prove himself.
David, I think he just called you a young punk, relatively speaking.
Pretty much. Well, I don't think he respects when David gets real braggy and that kind of thing, and he doesn't respect that. And I'm pretty sure he didn't like it a bit when David said, I'll take you.
Mm-hmm. So,
Don't worry, Joe.
Kind
I'll
of out
take
of spite. He's like, I'm not bringing you.
I thought,
Yeah.
well, I won't take you.
Okay, they're back at camp, and Mary's there to comfort David.
Yeah.
Kyle had a little bit to say about that. He almost said something, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and he restrained himself.
He
But
ends up saying they look like close friends in the
lot
moment.
closer than, but I'm on TV,
They're
shut your mouth.
Quite a tight pair.
Yeah. So I thought, yeah, well, okay. I respect that Kyle turned that around and didn't finish that, though the meaning was there.
Yeah, you can't halfway say that. I mean, he said what he wanted to say.
Yeah, so.
All right, Mary's talking to David, and they are convinced that Shauhin is planning something. Most likely, he's going to play his idol for Kamilla. So David says, we got to move the vote on to Mitch. And Mary says, you're right, David. You're absolutely right. Now, I was really caught off guard by this next sequence where Star comes up.
Okay, when she
to David
comes
and Mary.
running up going, it's got to be Mitch. It's like, hello, he just gave you some swim lessons. Why has it got to be Mitch?
Well, she wasn't advocating Mitch. When she was asked who she wanted, she said, well, let's take out Shauhin. And then she said, well, okay, I guess I got to go with
she say it's got to be Mitch?
She said, I got to go with the majority because that's who David and Mary were pitching. They had just decided they were going to pivot to Mitch since they thought Shauhin would play his idol for Kamilla.
Well, they
So Star says, no problem. Mitch goes.
They said Shauhin might have an idol. Boy, they did a good job of putting that out there, too, didn't they?
Well, that was Kamilla, yeah.
I know.
That seed she planted. Cut to the reward. They ask Mitch, who do you want out? Mitch says, 1,000% David.
Yeah.
He's really frustrating.
Well, my first thought was, I mean, I like a lot of different things about David's game as far as, his observing a lot of the things. And even though he's a little paranoid about things, he's right on a lot of that. It is happening.
He doesn't have the social acumen to bring it off. Yeah.
Yeah. But
to really close the deal.
And, it's easy to rag on David when he does things that seem more arrogant.
Going back to the reward there, when Shauhin hears Mitch say David, Shauhin tells us he's excited to target David, but he doesn't want to push too hard, and it's time for a flashback.
Gotta keep his cool.
Shauhin takes us on a flashback tour 4 to 5 days back, he says, where he's been planting these seeds against David. David's playing a Boston Rob game, he says to one person. Anyway, he goes around and he's just saying little subtle things, and he tells us he wants to allow the others to see it for themselves. Subtle nudges he's offering over this 4 to 5 day period.
Well, I'm pretty sure David's anxiety ramped way up when Joe did not select him to go to eat.
Yep.
And
not even Mary's commiserating with him and giving him a pat on the back was enough for him to recover.
Oh, but then she was talking strategy in her next breath. So she was just getting him back where she could talk strategy with him. So she had to talk him down. But I don't know. I can't help but think some of that was for show. Yes, I'm sure he was beating himself up. And a lot of us would like to have those few seconds back when something happens and you just, oh, no. But come on. The other people have been losing, and I just thought that was insensitive to a degree. So,
well, another big blunder is we see David talking to Eva, and he keeps banging this drum. Joe goes back on his word, he tells Eva.
Well, and he knows how close she is. Why do that? And you could tell she didn't really like it. She didn't like all their paranoia.
Right.
And she didn't like it that he didn't want her to talk to Kyle and Shauhin either, because they're also her friends. And she doesn't want all this dissension in the group, which is a little unrealistic as well, but that's where she is, and she didn't want to have to deal with it.
David misjudged and thought that Eva valued their connection as much as she values the one with Joe.
Yeah, I don't think so. Though she did want to keep it, but I'm not sure how she got convinced exactly yet, but they might show us next week.
Mary and David certainly start doing a number on her, giving her the update. I guess they're not going to target Kamilla.
Well, I like kind of how Kyle, when he was talking with her and, this and that, and I may have to vote David. Shauhin agrees.
Yeah, it was a great contrast.
Yeah,
the David Mary talking to Eva versus Kyle talking to Eva.
Yeah, he didn't like, you can't do this, you
Yeah.
can't do blah, blah, you have to vote. You know, he just kind of was throwing it out there. I may have to do this. And so I thought he handled it better than
Yep.
what David and Mary were.
Shauhin joins in and said, yep, I'll vote David. Eva says, look, I got to talk to Joe. I'm not going to make a decision with you two goofballs.
Yeah, and Eva's like, wow, she really doesn't want to break her word to David and Mary, but, you know, she's kind of caught in the middle. Though I didn't like it that Joe told her, I'll vote with you even if I go home. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't matter, I'll vote with you. And I'm like, I don't like it when you say things like that, because you really need to be there for your own game first and foremost.
But he established in
I
the
know.
first episode that he wasn't.
Yep. Or at least as soon as she confided in him and he was her person. I don't remember if that was in.
I really didn't think she was going to go against David, Eva. Because
Oh, no, I
she
didn't
says,
either.
I can trust David and Mary.
And I think for herself she could have. But I think she realized that, not so much for your Joe.
So
'Cause I
maybe
think
he
David will
did share
target him
more
now.
instead of just saying he would do whatever she wanted.
Joe?
They must have had a deeper conversation, yeah.
Yeah, or Eva, Joe, Kyle, and Shauhin did. And their, that conversation. Or David could have done it himself. He could have gotten angry toward Joe, and I think that could have been a game changer if he did that, but we don't know that yet. So I'm not sure what made her change her mind, but I'm hoping they tell us.
Well, at least Eva's considering it. She tells us
She is.
The choice is between Mitch and a David blindside, and she also tells us that she's really believes in and needs a team. So I figured she was going to stick with the strong six at that point.
Yeah.
I even made a note here. I think I'm losing my USB. I think
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think my guy Mitch is on his way out here. That was my frame of mind going into tribal council there on night 17.
Yeah, when was it? Was it during the challenge? I said, I love it when you give up. But that happened once before. You gave up, it's all over. Joe's lost, David's winning, and then it shifted.
You said all that about me giving up during tribal council.
Was that when it was?
That's when you said it out loud.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
Maybe you had some
I
other
can't remember
point.
where I said it, actually. I thought it was when Joe was losing, or we thought he was losing.
When it came down to the time for the votes, yeah. Okay, Probe sets him up with a question about stages of the game. Shauhin catches that first one, and he tells us they've got established emotional connections, and the paranoia is active, and everything feels tighter, like it's closing in, I guess.
I believe Shauhin right here when he talks about that he made emotional connection. Because I think when Eva shared that, he really did feel an emotional connection with her.
Yeah, and they had shared a lot of stuff when they were on New Vula together. So I suspect that's when Joe and Kyle had some of those conversations they were referring back to.
Yep.
Okay, Joe says, yeah, you got to know your strengths before you head out there because you're going to have to be able to dynamically adjust to the game.
Star said she was looking for the cracks for herself.
Eva didn't like that one bit. Even Eva begins her response with, well, I feel solid.
Well,
There's no crowbar that's going to crack me, and I trust in my people, and that's how we're going to get to the end and win.
Well, it was, and she probably didn't see it this way because, it came off a little arrogant that I'm not afraid of cracks. I'm locked in with what I want to do.
Right.
And I'm solid with that. But, so it almost felt like Star saying that was a bit of a threat to her, but she was going to let her know, there's no cracks here, so don't come knocking at this door.
You're right.
And then David kicks in, we can be strong and stick together.
And we can be public about it, too. Be certain and be strong.
What was it Shauhin said? Well, we'd bottle that if you can, or something like that.
He says there are definite risks for strong declarations.
And then I can't remember what somebody said, but Mary responded with, well, what if you struck at someone first when the others weren't even going to strike?
Mm-hmm.
So they must have had some inkling that they were coming at them by her saying that.
Well, they
strike
had both
first.
talked about being certain that Kyle and Shauhin were coming for them. So
Yeah, you think that's more it than they got some indication that the others were on board? I don't know. I thought David was pretty surprised. He kept we'll get there. I'm jumping ahead.
Kamilla pipes up with and you always got to keep the jury in mind, as Chrissy pointed out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, trying to make some points with Chrissy, are you?
Star just loved that. So she laughs and said, yeah, you put me over there and you don't get my vote. And Kamilla said, well, yes, I believe she said that much better than me. That's quite the improvement, Star. And Mitch is talking about adaptability, how you have to change how you play depending on who you get to play with.
Well, and yet David's still adamant that, you have to take a chance to really prove that, he can play the game the way he wants to play it with honesty. And I thought, well, your honesty's kind of what got you here, because you were being what you felt was very honest, and Joe didn't like it a bit because he didn't agree with your honest opinion. And I do think that was kind of the clincher, is that's what really got him in the end. I could be wrong, but...
Yep, Joe tells us that he can only control so much. So David liked part of that discussion. He knocks on wood, which Probst enjoyed. That's funny. I don't know that anyone's ever done that before.
Yeah.
David was hopeful. He said maybe it does something. Yes. When Probst asked him about it. Now, this is where I was convinced when they went to do the voting. We see David clearly voting for Mitch voting for David. No advantages or idols are played. And at this point, I was convinced that the strong six were going to hold, and my guy Mitch was out. And went to a 3-3 vote. And I thought, okay, maybe. Hope against hope, and then there comes a 4th for David, 5th for David. Turns out David caught 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, David, Mary, and Star voted for Mitch, and Mitch, Kyle, Kamilla, Shauhin, Joe, and Eva all voted for David.
That was not how I thought that was going to go down, but I'm
That's
absolutely
what Chrissy said.
Happy with the result.
She said, I didn't see that coming, and Cedric didn't either. He was like,
Right.
Wow.
David was mean mugging at Joe there at the end, wasn't he? He was very disappointed.
Yeah,
And Mary
he
was
really
shocked.
just sat there, and
He
so
took
I
a
guess
moment
they didn't
to
see
fume.
it coming.
Yeah.
They didn't really believe it if they
Good game,
thought it
David.
could be.
Good game, David. Good game.
Oh yeah.
Instead of I love you, they gave him a good game. GG. What? What does that mean?
That would mean more to David. Good game than
Love you.
love
you, man. I don't know. They both come off kind of cheap in that moment to me.
Well, and it doesn't mean that they don't.
what did
You do get attached to people regardless, but it's still a game.
That's not
for
necessarily the
$1
time,
million,
though. Yeah.
I think they think it's expected. They want to say something. And David wasn't really talking. I wasn't sure if he was trying to debate whether to say something.
It looked like he wanted to pretty bad.
I thought he did too.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to open another conversation, or at least
Some parting shots.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't, or if he did, they didn't.
He
didn't show
finally
us.
managed to hold his tongue on the way out the door.
Maybe.
What did you think of the episode?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I hate to. It feels like we've been ragging on David. I don't want to do that. I mean, he played his game and did what he did, but I just think it went wrong.
Well, he had some
There were
pretty.
just certain things that
It
just
seemed like he had some
over the top.
loud, obvious blunders
Yeah.
that he
yeah.
could have corrected for, but not in his nature, so he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. And I for some reason, I kept thinking, why do you think everyone's supposed to be listening to you? You're not really giving them the feeling that their opinions matter to you. It's what you want, it's what Mary wants. But I don't hear you telling the other people, well, what do you want and how would you feel about this? And now it's just like, we want this, period, fall in line.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that goes over well with anyone.
Me and the newest member of our alliance that I decided on.
Yes, exactly. That I decided to bring into our group.
I liked seeing how it all came together. I liked seeing that Shauhin had put that work in for days previous,
Good job,
planting those
Shauhin.
seeds, just like Kyle and Kamilla like to use that method, that tactic. And so Shauhin is firmly in that camp too, of helping subtly nudge people in a direction, and certainly they got the payoff here on night 17.
Well, and I think David actually assisted them by, trying to bulldoze.
I was bummed at that moment in tribal council when I thought Mitch was gone, because I thought this was your one and only chance to overthrow this supposedly strong five, strong six, however you want to look at it. And I thought that I saw that going out the window, but now it's here. What do you think the ramifications are? Will Eva and Joe be able to survive?
I don't know. I'm not sure they should, because they've made it very aware. I'm pretty sure they all know, Joe will give up his own game for Eva.
Yes, and they flaunted their advantage previously, openly discussing their own strategies until Mary came into the mix. I guess they used to just talk right in the middle of the camp and didn't care who heard them deciding who was going to go next.
Somebody must have brought that up and go, look, guys, we don't need to be telling everybody where we're coming with this.
Next time on Survivor,
all right,
we see Kamilla, Mary, and Star talking. Looks like it's right after tribal council when they get back to camp.
I like this. Camilla's working her side of the fence. Kyle's working over there, and they both have insight from everyone. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I don't know if it'll work, but I love it.
We see Kamilla saying what we need to do is find a way forward when she's talking to Mary and Star. So she's opening those doors, making sure they know that there's opportunity here for them and her. Star says, we get a whole new revolution going now.
Okay, whatever that means.
Well, overthrowing what seems like a done deal with the strong alliance.
Yes, but she
going
was
all the way
part
to the
of
end.
that.
Star was never really part of the strong alliance.
No, but I mean, she was part of the David and Mary alliance. Mm-hmm. She was open with them and working with them.
She was also working with Chrissy to overthrow the strong alliance. So she's, like she said at tribal council, she's opportunistic. She's looking for those cracks. And Kamilla is fine opening the door a crack and even talking to Mary about it. I liked all that.
All right.
I think everything's kind of blown wide open now.
Okay, well, we see Shauhin, Eva, Joe, and Kyle in a great big group hug.
Yep.
And Mary says to Mitch that...
we're at a critical mass.
Yes. It's
4v4 at 8, yep.
Yes, 4v4.
And then Mitch
really? I don't know.
Mitch in a confessional says, if you don't move now, you don't have a shot. You got to be making moves every turn at this point in the game. And we don't see who Camilla's talking to when she's there in the hammock.
I assumed Kyle.
Yeah, could be Shauhin. And she says they want to get Joe out.
No one will ever know.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
Well, that they're working together. I think that's what they're talking about. No one will ever know we're working together. But, they want to do this, and what do we want to do? And
then they cut to Joe. He's like all covered with sand, and he's looking around at something. Something's got him agitated is the way he looked.
Well, obviously, Star has bought into it that they're going after the big people because she says they are about to get ate by the piranhas.
Ate alive by the piranhas.
Yes.
Yeah. So might be seeing more of Star next time.
Yeah.
How about a JSFL update?
All right. In first place with 43 points, Scary's still there.
All right, go Scary. Go Scary.
6 people lost their USB. There were 49 people who lost a safe point, and 134 of us earned a vote-off point. Yay!
It's very uncommon for someone to look like the obvious vote out in Next Time on Survivor, and it actually happens that way.
That's what you said to me when I said, I'm going to pick David.
Oh, yes.
And I said,
And then you asked me, who am I going to pick?
Who are you picking?
Right?
You said, oh, David.
Oh, David, yeah. It was
Like,
more because that's what I
okay.
wanted, not that I necessarily
Well, I
believed it
do
was
that
possible.
a lot, especially this season. I just
Yeah.
put what I want. That's why I voted for safe 5 weeks in a row.
Okay, sorry,
So-
keep going.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where was I? Okay. Side challengers with 40 points. Congratulations, Parker. You are in first place.
Good job, Parker.
With 39 points, we have Robert and Stacy. With 38, Lisa Ray and Rebecca. 37, Jeremiah. 36, Anderson, Johnny, and Justin. And with 32, Drew.
All right, Drew, you're in the 30s, bro. Good job.
All right. That's it. So overall, I love the episode.
Well, it's blown the game wide open.
Yes.
Instead of pagonging,
Yes.
now we've
Exactly.
got everybody's got a shot. It feels like everybody left has a path to get to the end potentially.
Though I do feel a little sad for David.
Why?
Because I feel like the person that he is going to feel very devastated and spend a lot of time beating himself up for.
Well,
I didn't do this.
Was it
I didn't
flawed?
Do that, I didn't.
Is it a flawed idea, their pitch, where honesty and integrity can win? We're going to demonstrate it. I mean, you've got to get a group of people who are absolutely dedicated to playing the same way with
Yep.
no deviations for that to be a hope. It just seems so unrealistic to me, and it just seems to be the path to hypocrisy. Every time in the history of Survivor we see people make that choice, they end up coming off as just like huge hypocrites. And I firmly believe he was on his way to reproducing that effect.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I do think that it was, like you said, he totally misread Joe when he said, well, you went back on your word too.
Believe it, that's fine.
Now,
just keep that part
Yes,
to yourself.
You can believe it. You can go, right, Joe, like I buy that. But keep your mouth shut. And if you want to work with him still in the game, back off and go, okay, well. I
But
don't
if he
wanna
chooses
shoot
to do
myself in
that,
the
is
foot.
he playing an honest game with integrity? If he doesn't share that he feels that Joe has gone back on his word? It's a
maybe
trap.
not. Maybe not.
That's what that approach to the game is. That's why you don't see it work. It's a trap. You're going to get caught up one way or another.
Yep. Or persecuted, like Lil. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's a good, even if you want to try to do that, I don't know that it's good to talk about.
In David's defense, he really doesn't know much at all about Survivor. He had good instincts for where the
Yeah.
risks were,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't really...
Even if they were a little askew, but,
He couldn't rally the troops to help him, and he couldn't make progress on uncovering what was really going on because he had limited himself to that one small group. I mean, it was becoming more and more significant as the numbers dwindled. But because he didn't keep an open door to Mitch, he didn't keep an open door
exactly.
to everybody in the game,
Yeah.
to Kamilla.
Well, and the other thing that I was very concerned about after last week, that Kyle had completely blown his game. Mm-hmm. And he did some really pretty good damage control, I thought. Mm-hmm. And so, good on you, Kyle.
Seemed to have the desired effect on Joe.
Yeah.
Not that he was trying to con him. I think he was probably personally sharing
Yeah.
in
I think it was
truth.
all real because Joe might have seen through some of that, but anyway, obviously Kyle's pretty good at persuasion, like he was telling Joe he was, and but Joe hasn't applied it to the game, but they both shared. So and that is one way we've seen from both Eva and Joe that you get in good with them, and even Shauhin. If they think you're really being honest, then that does make a difference. And I would have thought Shauhin was more skeptical than that, but I liked to see that other side of him. So we just didn't see much of Mitch at all, and hardly anything from Kamilla, other than she's still mad at David.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'll be interested to really see at some point Kyle and Kamilla have to make some moves. I don't know when they are going to be ready or...
Who do you take out first, Eva or Joe?
100% Eva for me because she's the one with all of the goods.
The blindside?
Oh, yeah. Absolute blindside.
What if that super inspires Joe to go on a immunity tear?
I don't think he is
You don't
capable.
think he can win them all?
I don't, no.
He'll give you the opportunity to get rid of him.
Joe is granted in good shape, all of that, but he is older than, but let's see. Well, he's not, I don't know how much older he is than Shauhin or even Mitch for that
Joe's in
matter,
his
but-
40s. They're in their 30s.
Oh, okay. So, but I was thinking he was older and that, sometimes after your body's gone without food and sleep and on, it really does tax it more the older you are. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I thought. And even, look at Ozzy and Malcolm and all the people. They can't hold out. Even the young, strong, athletic people that have competed couldn't win them all.
Well, except Mike. He did win them all.
Well, Mike did, and he didn't appear to be even all that physically.
Right.
Maybe that was the key. But yeah, I think a lot of that was just sheer willpower and luck.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it'll go next and to see if Eva and Joe really have the chops to adapt.
And
Find a way through, make those connections so they could persevere and not just get picked off now.
would Shauhin want to go against them now?
Well, I think he's pretty clear.
Would
He
he
doesn't want to
turn
go
on
against Eva. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Would he go along?
The timeline has been accelerated by getting rid of David.
But the reality is they don't need Shauhin to do it if the other people are on board. They don't need him. But it just, they've got to get it down to where numbers are small enough that Kyle and Kamilla together end up having some agency.
Have built a majority alliance.
How are they going to break that up before they reveal them?
Right.
That, they want to work together.
And Eva does have the tools, so she could make sure they both get through to the next round, even if they don't win
Oh, sure.
immunity.
Yeah.
So,
Without a doubt. She could play the idol for herself and send Joe back to camp. Done. But they'd have to be aware of it. So, again, if Kyle gets the feeling, hopefully he would be able to finesse.
I don't think they're going to be as on guard as they need to be against Kyle and Shauhin, Joe and Eva.
Oh, Joe and Eva. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either.
It's going to hit. It's going to hit them like a truck with this next
I
one because I
agree.
think one or the other of them. Even we see Kamilla saying that the target's Joe, but one or the other of them. That's in you. Almost guaranteed that's before they do the immunity challenge that she says that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know where they're going to go. That's exciting to think about.
So-
because I don't know who might have beaten David, but
If Eva and Joe are protected, immunities, safety without power, or whatever,
especially if they have knowledge.
Mary
that
goes?
They're coming out. Mary, I would think she would be the
just
obvious
because
next choice.
because of the association with David.
But
Even though Kamilla looks like she's opening the door to her.
exactly. And she may need to play that for then, you know.
Yeah, Kamilla might underestimate how quickly Mary will
4
sell her
and
out.
4, yeah. Well, but if she does, then maybe she's exposed and they don't have enough numbers. Unless she's really stayed tied in there with Mitch. I'm hoping she has, because she really was with old Siva to start with. And so I'm hoping she's keeping that strong connection with Mitch. And that maybe she and Kyle could, hey, let's go back to, now that David's out of the way, let's go back to old Siva working together.
What kind of welcome do you think he got at Ponderosa from Chrissy?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know that she's going to, I mean, come on, what's the point
I think
hanging on to?
Chrissy and Cedric met him with a great big tall glass of milk, chocolate milk.
Yep.
Come on, buddy.
And wow, we didn't see that coming. What's been happening?
Yeah.
So-
You think he's going to be bitter? He looked like he had
Yeah.
the ingredients for a bitter jury when he left.
Well, at least he's got a little time. He's got time to
and
gnaw.
his last words there seemed like he was managing it okay.
Yeah.
He had figured out that Kyle and Shauhin had flipped on him and that obviously they decided to get rid of him. And he was saying, some days you're a hero, some days you're a villain. He wasn't going to hold it against them, and at least he was going to go get to drink some chocolate milk.
Yeah, he said that in a moment. We'll see.
Still, more than likely, there's going to be an opportunity to be bitter.
I actually don't
Depends on who's in the final 3.
I don't think he'll be anywhere near as angry with Shauhin and Kyle as he will be with Eva and Joe.
Yeah.
I think that's who he probably would feel more hurt by them. Mm-hmm. I mean, he already thought Kyle and Shauhin were in cahoots after him. And so, I don't think that would have surprised him. But the way he looked at Joe and just looked at Joe,
Yeah.
even more than Eva, because I think in his mind, I could see him thinking, you made Eva do it.
Yeah. Oh,
Or
we could
maybe
keep
he
going
thought
and
he
going,
didn't
but
do
I think we need to wrap it
Oh,
up.
yes, we do. We still have things to do.
Yeah, the other place, though, where we've been having a lot of fun is the listener feedback show. We'd love to have you come join us, be a part of that. The voicemail line, 206-350-1547, toll free, 844-643-8737. You can record your own audio and send it to Joanne and Stacy Show at gmail.com. You can also send an email and we'll read it in for you to the feedback show. The feedback's due noon Eastern time on Saturday. We ask that you keep your feedback in that 3-minute range. Looking forward to hearing what you think about this shakeup. How's it going to play out from here? Who impressed you the most? Who do you think's playing their best game at this point? And who's in jeopardy of being voted out next? Oh yeah, and can you play an honest game with integrity and win in Survivor? Seems like the deck's stacked against you there, but maybe you got another idea we hadn't considered.
Yeah, well, I want to hear other opinions.
Anything else?
I don't believe so.
Have a good one.